Everybody enjoys a good mystery. Well, perhaps not everybody, and probably not all the time. But you'll have to admit there's some feeling of exhilaration that comes when you finally figured out something you've been puzzling over for quite a while. Now, as a small boy, science always fascinated me. I was always doing some kind of experiment. And then, when I got to go away to Bass Academy in Mississippi, I took a class from Mr. Keller. He was a science teacher there. Now, I don't recall the name of the class, but I do remember one particular assignment that he gave us. We were teamed up in pairs of two, and our assignment was to develop a formula that accurately predicted the arc of a pendulum and the length of each successive stroke until it ran out of energy. My partner and I spent 2 full days of trial and error, repeatedly watching the pendulum back and forth, back and forth, noticing its behavior with each successive cycle, and then comparing the motion of the pendulum to the formula's prediction. Now, boy, did we struggle. But finally, we got it, and wow, what a feeling. When it finally worked, you'd think that based on our level of celebration, we had just been awarded the Nobel Prize in pendulum swinging. Now, just the other day, I wondered what mysteries might still be puzzling scientists today. The last few centuries have been pretty good for science. It was in the 17th century that Isaac Newton solved the ancient controversy over the nature of force and motion. I'm sure you remember them. You know, the ones that talked about objects remaining at rest and objects remaining in motion, and something about the acceleration depending on mass and force, and then finally objects having equal and opposite effects on each other. Later in the 18th century, Ben Franklin figured out a lot about lightning and electricity. And then in the 19th century, Michael Faraday discovered electromagnetic induction. That gave us the electric generator, which plays a major role in today's push for electric vehicles. And then, of course, there's the 20th century. You know, we had Einstein, E equals mc squared and all that stuff. With this as a foundation, I wondered what's still puzzling scientists here in the 21st century. So like any good researcher, I've turned to the internet for the answer. Here's a little of what I found. A simple question: what makes up the universe? It turns out that all those stars out there, all the galaxies in the universe, barely begin to account for all the stuff that's out there. Most of the matter in the universe is actually unseeable, untouchable, and today, so far, is undiscoverable. It's what they call dark matter. And despite having searched for it for decades, scientists still have no idea what it is. And I could certainly understand why. What lives in the twilight zone? No, I'm not flashing back to last century's TV series hosted by Rod Serling, but rather to the ocean zone 650 feet below the surface. There, sunlight fades away, and so does our knowledge about these deep, dark depths. It's almost easier to define what we don't know than what we do know about this region of the earth. And the list goes on and on. So many mysteries and so little time to solve them. But you know, to the Christian, some of the mysteries scientists are puzzling over are not mysteries at all. Like, where did life come from? And when did it begin? Well, the answer to that mystery was recorded some 3,600 years ago when Moses wrote his account of creation in the book of Genesis. It's in the first 2 chapters there. He begins by telling us, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. And Moses continues his parade of days by detailing each of God's creation events. It was at the end of the sixth day that God declared the completeness of all that he had done. A completeness he then celebrated by creating a Sabbath's rest for his human companions to spend with him. And then there's the question of age. You know, scientists say it this way: what's the oldest possible age a human can reach? They then go on to ask the question, is the first human to live 150 years alive today? Well, we as Christians know how absolutely foolish that question is. Why set the limit to 150? First of all, we know that the Bible records dozens of people who live longer than that. Enoch lived 365 years. Lamech, 777 years. Seth, 912 years. Adam, 930 years. Noah, 950 years. And the oldest man recorded in the Bible was Methuselah. He lived 969 years. And you know what? That's nothing. In 1 John 2:25, Jesus promises us that we will live forever. Yes, that we will never die. And then, of course, there's John 3:16. Remember? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Yes, everlasting life. Will live forever. But the Bible does tell us that there are limits to human intelligence. It's put this way: the secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. This week, Pastor Shelton's message is entitled Mysteries of God. In it, he begins his study with an examination of the verse I just read from Deuteronomy and how it relates to the plan of salvation God has revealed to us. Please plan on joining us in our sanctuary this Sabbath for Pastor Shelton's message entitled Mysteries of God. But if you can't do that, visit us on Facebook or YouTube. And until then, have a blessed week.